Penguin Random House Audio presents Supernova by C.A. Higgins. Read for you by Fiona Hardingham. Chapter 1. Ignition. 6 months before the fall of Earth. In the instant after the bomb went off, Constance was a little girl again, on Miranda and waiting for the next system explosion to shear the skin from her bones. A little girl could hide the way an adult could not, huddled down like a cub in a den. A young thing hid because there was nothing else it could do. But there was no true hiding here. The system saw them all. Her friends, her family, such as it was, were near her, she knew. But there was nothing she could do to save them. And there was nothing they could do to save her. And so even though they were near, she was alone. The unstoppable power of the explosion would tear her limb from limb, and the system's cameras would watch with a machine's chill indifference. And there was nothing that she could do in this moment, but wait to die. But Constance wasn't on Miranda anymore. She was on Palace, and she was a woman grown, not a little girl, and the bomb that had gone off had been hers. The rock dust from the explosion billowed. Palace's gravity was so low that it could take days for it to settle back down again. The particles reached so high that they dusted against the glassy ceiling of the segmented greenhouse enclosure that separated Palace's manufactured atmosphere from the distant stars. Constance stepped out from behind the stone, in whose shadow she had sheltered, to watch the dust and smoke poison the atmosphere. Some distance behind her, the glass walls that separated this segment of the greenhouse enclosure from the adjoining section shivered with the shock wave of the blast. "Nice job," said Matty with a cough, coming out from behind a different stone windbreak. There was blood on his cheek already, but they weren't nearly done yet. Ivan, following him out, was unbloodied. His blue eyes were as clear and distant as the starscape overhead, the one slowly being concealed by the creeping smoke. "Masks on," Constance said. Matty took his oxygen mask from Ivan and fitted it over his nose and mouth. But when Ivan handed Constance her mask, his fingers captured hers. "Keep your head," he said. After the warmth of Matty's Mirandan tenor, the sharp clarity of his Terran accent was startling. Constance did not bother to respond. "The smoke's spreading pretty fast," Matty said through the mask, with a speculative eye on the dust from the explosion that was already brushing against the shell of the greenhouse enclosure. When the sensors inside the greenhouse enclosure sensed the smoke, Constance knew they would close off this segment of the enclosure to keep the other segments open and livable. "How long?" she asked. She knew Matty was grinning by the crinkles near his eyes. "I think the system's got maybe half an hour before they're trapped in here." "Then so do we," said Ivan, and put his own mask on. The front of the slow, thick cloud of debris had almost reached them. "Let's go," Constance said, and stepped into the smoke and dusted stone. The sunlight was dim and distant on Palace, but not as distant as it had been on Miranda, where Constance had been born. She was used to seeing by the light of her own eyes. The system soldiers would be Terrans, like Ivan. They would be used to bright sunlight and clear days. She navigated her way through the cloud unerringly, stepping carefully over the olivine, flecked Palladian stone. There was a flickering orange light ahead, pulsing through the smoke. Fire. Constance stalked toward it carefully. Shadowed and blurred figures moved around the fire, system agents working to suppress it. In a place of limited oxygen, such as the atmospheric domes, there was no higher priority than controlling a fire, and that would distract the system just long enough. Constance's goal was the ground zero of the explosion. Here the smoke was thick enough and the flames hot enough that few of the system had dared to come near. But Constance did not slow or hesitate. Beside her, Mattie stalked forward like a wolf on the hunt, and behind her she felt the weighty press of Ivan's presence. When a few soldiers emerged, coughing maskless in the smoke, Mattie took them out easily with his pistol. As they passed the bodies, Constance thought she heard Ivan pause behind her, standing over the corpses, but when she looked back, he was moving again with no reaction to the deaths that she could see. The bomb she had planted had destroyed the outer wall of the system base's armory. The system probably thought that she had planted the bomb incorrectly and missed out on her chance to destroy them. But the explosion had gone completely according to plan. Constance did not want to destroy this base. She wanted to get inside. The air was clearer once she was through the shattered wall and into the uniform concrete hallways of the system base. Overhead, an alarm blared with incessant volume, red lights flashing over the hall the way the fire flashed over the stone outside. Ivan had taken off his mask and was wiping ash off his pale cheeks. Mattie tapped Ivan twice on his waist as he passed. Dust congealed in the blood on his face. Ivan did not react, only scanned the hallway, sighted something, raised his gun and fired. Farther down the hall, a camera that had not been destroyed by the blast shattered under Ivan's bullet. "Good shot," Constance said, her voice muffled by the mask she had not removed, and she headed deeper into the base. The alarm blared, the sound of it physically percussive. Constance flexed her fingers around the barrel of her long gun warily, keeping it low. At the point that Mattie had marked out on the blueprints, there were 5 doors. She gestured Mattie toward one door and Ivan toward another, and they left to explore the rooms she had indicated while she moved on to the 3rd door. It opened easily and led to nothing but a room of small arms. She left it and moved on to the 4th. Mattie was back in the hallway when she emerged, crouched beside the 5th door, his lockpicks out, 2 of them tucked beneath his teeth. He lifted his eyebrows at her beneath his long bangs. "Think this is it," he said around the lockpicks. "Why?" "It's the only one locked so far. Low security, but I bet there's an electronic lock on the other side." He sounded like he relished the idea. Constance watched him wiggle the metal bits around a little longer and then checked her timepiece. Less than 20 minutes before the airlocks shut them into this segment of the greenhouse. Then they would be thoroughly trapped and as good as dead. "Move," she told Mattie. When he was away, Constance fired a burst from her gun at the door. The lock shattered, and the door fell limply open. Mattie scowled at her. From somewhere nearby, a burst of weapons fire echoed hers. Mattie started, dropping the lockpicks on the floor, but Constance threw out a hand to still him. Beneath the relentless alarm, she heard the sound of a different weapon firing. Ivan's gun. "Stay here. Open the inner door," she ordered Mattie, and before he could protest, she chased the sounds of the firefight past the door through which Ivan had disappeared. Ivan's door had led to a sequence of rooms in labyrinthine combination. Constance walked as swiftly and as quietly as she could from room to room, following the echoing and intermittent gunfire. She saw them before she heard them. Ivan had gotten close enough to his attackers to disarm them. One man was dead already, and as she watched, not close enough for a clear shot, Ivan tackled another, the man's head slamming hard against the floor. The 3rd attacker picked himself up off the ground, grabbed his fallen gun and stepped forward to aim that gun at Ivan's temple. Ivan turned his head to look up not at the man holding the gun, but at the gun itself, which was aimed directly at his skull. He looked at the gun with a strange and wary anticipation. Constance had seen that expression on his face before, though she could not remember where. "You set that bomb off," said the man, panting from the struggle. "Did you come here alone?" Ivan didn't answer. The second man, the one he had slammed against the floor, was stirring beneath him.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?